Okay, good evening. Welcome everyone to Care to Share. This is my third night. We're going to be talking about some political issues here in Douglasville. And I want to welcome my guest to the show, Mr. Mike Miller and Mr. Jerome Fitts. You are a local Republican, right, and you've had Tea Party backing. And I know I guess it's local Tea Party backing, right? How do you feel about, I have to ask you, the local Tea Party backing you, what made you receive their backing?
Well, this campaign's exciting. It's kind of new because I've got backing from Democrats, I've got backing from Tea Party folks, liberty-minded folks, and I've got backing from traditional Republicans who, have always, been involved with my life and in my political life for the last several years. So it's real dynamic. I think that's real important in Douglasville these days because we've got a dynamic of folks that are kind of good old boys who've been running the town, and no matter what party they're in, the issues of taking care of Douglasville and Douglas County and our school system, those are local issues. So it's not about R's and D's and black and white. It's about bringing everybody together to do the best thing so we can increase the standard of living in Douglasville and everybody gets a fair shake. Right. So I've gotten asked a lot, well, this election is nonpartisan. So a lot of people ask, are you Republican? Are you Democrat? I see you got the Tea Party backing. And I'm proud to have everybody's backing, right, because everybody sees that I can reach across the aisle and bring it together and do the right thing for the community as a whole. And that's what's important for me. So I'm honored to have the Tea Party backing. They've been out calling, going door to door. They've been very instrumental in some of our fundraisers and stuff. So I'm happy to have their support. And the local Tea Party has been one. They've supported me because of my record on transparency and taking care of the local taxpayer. On
your transparency, what do you think is going to make you a better candidate than the one that's already in, the Dennis McLean?
Just on the transparency issue, I don't think it's just on transparency. Let me talk about that for a little bit, though. When I was on the Board of Education, it didn't matter whether you were black or white or Republican or Democrat. My concern was about what type of education your kids were getting and what type of role and access that you had to the Board of Education. I represented the city of Douglasville in the area that I'm running for the city council race right now. I represented that area on the Board of Education for 4 years. During that time, if people had issues, they always had an open door. I would reach across the aisle to my good friend D.T. Jackson, who's a Democrat that sits on the board. Some Republicans took advantage of that when I ran for state house last year and criticized me for voting for a Republican. Voting for a Democrat to become the vice chairman of the school board. But that was the right thing to do. He was the first black individual to represent Douglas County on the Board of Education. He'd been on there a couple of years, and I thought it was a good opportunity for him to get a leadership position and represent the community well. So if I'm at fault for that, I guess I am, but I'd do it again.
Right. Considering the people that are already on the board, on the city council, you getting into the city council, becoming a city councilman, how are you going to make city council more transparent? Okay. How are you going to make the city of Douglasville more transparent when you get on the city council?
And obviously opening up, and one thing I've noticed from the meetings is you can always speak at the end of the work session. So I think actually transparency-wise, they're doing a pretty good job. Now, if I get on there and there's, you know, backdoor meetings and backroom decisions being made, then I'm gonna do what we need to do to stop that. But I don't think that's one of the problems that I see with the city council. So I don't have any. My plans, my platform doesn't include transparency. The closest thing to that is I would like to see us using our board of ethics. I didn't realize we had a board of ethics because it hadn't been used since its inception back in 2000. But I've looked at that code section. I think we need to make it a little more available to the average citizen, because over the past few years we've had some embarrassments that have come up. We've had councilmen that have been paid for meetings that they weren't supposed to be paid for, and they've had to take action. I mean, our former mayor got indicted and pleaded guilty to taking money that he shouldn't have for meetings that they shouldn't have had. We've had other incidents in the not so recent past that probably would have been, I believe, the citizens and corporations in Douglasville would have been more comfortable if they would have had an opportunity to, you know, had the ethics board investigate those situations.
Mm-hmm. Let me ask you this, Jerome. Democrat. I'm assuming you're a Democrat.
Yes, sir.
You're a Democrat. I know we can't ask you who you're voting for or anything like that, but what do you think? I'm assuming Mike is a better candidate right now for the position of city council than because I think your position is not say you're going to vote for Mike, but it's to get the best person in there.
That and that right there is the key. If I lived in his district, for one, I'm not going to sit home because you have to vote. That's the whole thing. Just because a Democrat isn't on the ticket, you still have to vote. I would do my research, find out what's going on. And the thing about this particular situation, I can't say that I've done it. Maybe I should have done it just before I came on the show to check it. If you do the research on the two candidates, if you type in Dennis McClain, Douglasville, Georgia, the things that pop up, first thing that pop up, you saying, wait a minute, I can't vote for this man. And my assumption is if you check Mike Miller, his credentials are there. And you can actually check that out and see what you can see things. You don't see anything negative.
So there's the credentials on Dennis if you just Google it.
If you Google his name right now, his name is sullied from what he did. And that was my instance, and I spoke on that at the city council meeting. I didn't move to Douglasville, Georgia to be on national news for his comments. Right. That's ridiculous. Exactly. That's not what that platform is for. It's not our fault that you was dumb enough to put some comments like that on Facebook, thinking that it was okay. To me, that right there in lies the issue. See, I'm from up north, so it's a little different. Down here, the good old boy system is right in your face. And I think they feel as though it is 50 years ago. They can come and go as they please and do whatever they want. They're not expecting public outrage. That's the key difference right now.
And you think that's what made him say what he said, and
he didn't care.
He didn't care.
From my understanding was he made the comments. He got interviewed by the Sentinel. He stood by the comments. Then when the news cameras came in his face, now you want to apologize. I was always
so that was his first apology when the news
came. Yes. My thing is be a man. You said it, stand by it. You that bold, stand by it. But now things are starting to trickle down on him, which is bad. He actually lost a major contribution. He lost a $500 contribution. Somebody took their money back because they want to be associated with him. That's what's happening. But upon with that, which is my issue, is it's like the mentality of some black people. They still living like it 50 years ago too. Yeah. He said it, okay, do something about it. Don't just fall back. Your voice is your vote. Go ahead and vote him out, and then see what happens.
And Doug, the sad thing is I'm afraid Douglasville. I mean, obviously, I want to win the election. I wanted to win the election before all these comments came out.
And I'm sure you want to win it on who you are, not on what he said. Right.
But what I'm concerned about now as a Douglasville person and somebody that's been involved with the downtown development and the Douglasville development and the bettering of our city for the last 15 years, is, you know, just like Mr. McLean's contributor coming in and wanting his money back because he doesn't want to associate with them. I'm worried that there's going to be companies and folks that could make Douglasville a better place, not want to be here because of that mentality that's been exhibited, through his Facebook post.
Something I think Mr. McLean failed to recognize, that there are entrepreneurs of every color, every ethnic creed, every race that have money that would like to contribute. But if I'm going to, me personally, like I say, if I was going to give to the city of Douglasville, and there's someone on the city council that speaks that type of language, it makes me wonder, should I do that with my money? And it has nothing to do with the other city council members. It's just that one person that could just mess up the whole thing about Douglasville.
Well, Doug, and it goes past the comments. It goes to a mindset of either wanting to control everything that comes into Douglasville, or just not supporting something that these folks don't necessarily understand. For example, about 10 years ago, 8 to 10 years ago, I was the chairman of the Downtown Development Authority. We missed opportunity after opportunity after opportunity to develop downtown Douglasville because of the lack of foresight for our leadership. We had Inman Park Properties had committed $13 million, outfit out inside of Atlanta, wanted to come in and do a multi-use development in downtown Douglasville. They had the money designated, and the certain leaders with that mindset basically ran them off. There was a lack of cooperation. I recruited a gentleman that I met through my economic development and community planning experience to come in. He was a renowned infill development historic preservation expert. He actually came in and purchased land on the north side to do a multi-use development to add jobs to the north side. It would have serviced and provided some residential and some office space and some retail, but potentially restaurant right there on the north side. There's nothing over there. And unfortunately, he was afraid, because of the lack of foresight of our leaders, that his investment was going to go belly up. So he pulled out. The Vortex. Michael Benoit with the Vortex came in. He purchased 3 buildings in the downtown area. Rehab all 3 of those buildings, preparing to put a Vortex restaurant in there, which would have been a good draw for downtown, would have brought in a lot of tax revenue. Well, the leaders in Douglasville at the time, with that lack of foresight and that mindset, they didn't like his logo. His logo was a skull, and they thought that was satanic. And so they said, we're not going to let you do your logo, we're not going to let you do your sign. And he said, well, I'm not going to put money, invest in your downtown if you don't let me do that. So there's years, and there's many other, there's a business owner right now, he took a building that was falling down and rehabbed it. He's got a business going in there. That was about a year ago, and he's yet to get his CO. The city, the mindset that's been running this city, it just needs to change, because we run off all that private revenue, all that private interest, investment into the downtown that would have added to the tax base, which would have in turn increased the standard of living for folks in the community. And instead, our city goes and spends taxpayers' dollars, $17 million, on building a conference center that turns around and competes with local businesses. There's one event center that has now gone out of business as a direct relationship of the conference center. And then we don't even, when we put a caterer in there, we go outside the community to find a caterer. So we're not even helping out. We spend all this taxpayer dollars. I say we, the city spends all of the taxpayer dollars and then turns around and competes with local businesses. I'm sorry, but as you know, as a conservative-minded individual, I find that insane. We don't need to be doing that. And then I've been appointed on to the Future Land Use Plan Stakeholders Committee. I served on there in 2003, and I was appointed again by the city in 2013. When I was appointed on there, I was really looking to see, well, what kind of individual private development that they had planned that using that conference center as a springboard. And I was very shocked when I found that there was no plan to do that. You know, they built a conference center, but there's no plans to do a hotel. There's no plans to help spur economic development around that conference center. It was just a conference center, and that was it. No further idea. So while I'm all for using taxpayer dollars in certain instances where it makes sense to help as a springboard to develop private industry development, to help develop the tax base to pay back those dollars, I believe that's a rational determination and a rational, that's a logical plan. Unfortunately, these folks with this failure to have foresight never had that plan in place, and I think that's a problem. So part of my platform is kind of a two-prong approach. First of all, we need to start developing a relationship and working with the county, because if we don't, we're going to continue to miss out on this private development that's going to help the folks who live here, that's going to bring jobs to the people who live here in Douglas County. So by working with the county, we're going to instill some confidence in those folks who want to bring businesses here. And then secondarily, we got to have an open mind about the businesses we bring here. Now, we don't want to bring business and development that's going to cost more than it brings in, but we just need to be cognizant and rational about the business that we do. But when we do get good opportunities to bring jobs to Douglasville, we need to bring them.